You ever get that feeling, that suspicion? There's just more going on than we usually admit.
Mm-hmm. Like history's got hidden layers, or the world itself has these untapped possibilities.
Exactly. That kind of nagging curiosity, the sense that there's a deeper level to things. And, well, that's exactly where we're headed today.
It's a really fundamental human drive, isn't it? To look beyond what's right on the surface. And today we're channeling that into Jeffrey Kripal's book, The Superhumanities: Historical Precedents, Moral Objections, New Reality.
Right. And this isn't your typical dry academic read. Not at all.
No, Kripal really throws down a gauntlet, challenging how we fundamentally understand human experience, especially in fields like history and religion.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack his main idea, that there's this superhuman potential woven into human experience.
And that taking seemingly weird or anomalous experiences seriously, well, that could totally shift our perspective on everything: history, culture, even ourselves.
It's fascinating how wide he casts his net, too. You mentioned the sources.
Oh, yeah. It's a rich mix. Comparative religion, deep historical dives, and importantly, looking squarely at those unusual, often sidelined human experiences. It really shows the scope of his thinking.
Okay, let's dig in then. This idea of the superhumanities. It didn't just pop out of thin air in some, theoretical bubble, did it?
No, not at all. It actually grew out of his real-world experience, teaching religion students in a modern university.
Ah, okay, so boots on the ground.
Exactly. And that practical experience, being an educator, that's what sparked this major intellectual shift for him. He noticed that the standard tools, critical analysis, historical context, comparative stuff, they were good, valuable, but they always seemed to leave something out, something crucial. He called it the special, or something left over in experience.
Something left over. I like that. It captures that feeling, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So for listeners, think about those moments you can't quite explain rationally. What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, think about the really strange bits in religious traditions. Not just the official doctrines, but the weird occurrences, the interactions with the world that feel almost cosmic.
Yeah.
Kripal felt that conventional scholarship, often focused strictly on the material, the rational, just wasn't cutting it. It didn't have the framework to really deal with those aspects.
What was his answer? He called for something different, right?
More experiential.
Empirical.
Yes, quite a departure. He argued for adding experiential and empirical approaches to studying religion.
What does that mean in practice, though?
It means taking seriously the idea that religious concepts, and maybe more importantly, the experiences people report, might actually point to real features of consciousness, or even the cosmos.
Not just psychology or cultural metaphors.
Exactly. Not just that. He's saying, let's investigate these as potentially reflecting something empirically real, not simply subjective states.
He uses that Superman analogy, too, which I thought was brilliant. Really helped me grasp.
That's the Superman bit in the prologue. Yeah, that's such a great illustration.
This contrast between the ordinary guy and the hidden power.
Right. Alvin Schwartz's take on it, Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter, versus Superman, this being of incredible power. Kripal uses that to mirror what he calls a secret, private, but universal experience.
This untapped potential inside everyone.
Precisely. That latent, maybe even superhuman potential we all might have tucked away. So listeners, think about times you felt you could do more, or your intuition just knew something.
But then there's the pushback he talks about, this immunological response in academia. Why the resistance?
Well, that's key. He doesn't just see it as intellectual disagreement. It's almost like a defense mechanism.
A defense against what?
Against experiences or data points that seem to come from outside the matrix, outside our standard, mostly materialist view of reality.
Okay.
So the immunological response is this kind of automatic rejection, a reluctance to look too closely, maybe because it threatens the established ways of thinking, the dominant academic worldview.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution, according to Kripal? What if we do take these things seriously? What if we reimagine the humanities?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's right at the core of his whole project. He literally asks, what would happen if we reimagined the humanities as the superhumanities?
Which is more than just a name change.
Oh, way more. It's a deep shift. It means acknowledging and actually celebrating what he calls the undercurrent of the fantastic that he sees running through all these disciplines.
Undercurrent of the fantastic.
Yeah.
Implying we've been kind of missing a big piece of the puzzle.
That's exactly it. He wants to bring back this suppressed dimension focused on, quote, rare but real altered states of knowledge.
Like what? Precognitive dreams.
Yeah, precognitive dreams, sensing a doubled self, those flashes of intuition that hint at maybe evolving human abilities.
And he argues that these aren't just weird blips on the radar.
No, he thinks they've actually been a driving force behind the creativity of many major historical figures. These aren't insignificant side notes.
So for listeners, the idea is that these strange feelings or moments might actually link up with major cultural achievements.
That's a huge part of his argument. He talks about something cosmic or superhuman smoldering in the human, an inherent potential.
Wow.
He even suggests that maybe that's what pulls people towards the humanities in the first place, that gut feeling, that sense of wonder, the intuition that there's more to the human story.
And unlocking that could lead to new ways of seeing the world.
Entirely new cultural worlds and meanings, as he puts it. Big stuff.
Which feels connected to his call to decolonize reality itself. That's a really striking phrase. What's he mean by that?
Yeah, it's powerful. He's saying that genuine human diversity isn't just about representation within our current systems. It means we have to take other conceptions and experiences of reality itself seriously.
Seriously, as in possibly true.
As in possibly the case, yeah. Across all fields. He's challenging the very basic assumptions about what's real, the ontology that underpins a lot of Western academic thought.
So the dominant view of reality we operate with, he sees that as a kind of colonizing force itself.
Kind of, yeah. Traditional postcolonial thought often looks at discourse, representation. Kripal goes deeper. He critiques the foundational materialist or secular worldview itself.
How so?
He argues it acts like a colonizing force by marginalizing or dismissing ways of knowing and being that don't fit its mold. Experiences rooted in different ontological assumptions.
Okay, but couldn't focusing on the superhuman be seen as, I don't know, ignoring real-world problems, like a kind of escapism? Does he address that?
He does. It's a fair question. He flips it, though, and talks about the prevalence of spiritual bypassing. Meaning focusing only on the socio-political can sometimes ignore these other vital dimensions of being human. He argues neither type of bypassing, moral or spiritual, is sufficient. We need a holistic view.
Both the human and the superhuman, the moral and the cosmic.
Exactly. A truly comprehensive approach has to hold both.
And this whole project, it feels like it's aiming to bring back some wonder, some possibility into how we study ourselves.
Definitely. He connects the dominance of what he calls secular scientisms, nihilistic materialisms, and unbelievable fundamentalisms to a kind of cultural bleakness.
A feeling that the truth has to be depressing.
Right. And he offers the superhumanities as a potential antidote, a way to find renewed meaning and hope by embracing a much bigger picture of who we are and what reality might be.
Okay, so if we're going to do this, take these superhuman experiences seriously. How does that actually play out if I'm studying history or literature?
Right. That brings us to his call for a strong and unapologetically comparative study of extreme and often culturally anomalous human experiences.
So looking at the weird stuff across cultures.
Pretty much. He argues these experiences, often just labeled religious and filed away, are actually central to understanding human history and our full range of capabilities.
And he backs this up with examples, right? It's not just theory.
Oh, absolutely. He pulls examples from everywhere. African religions, ancient Egypt's cosmotheism, Hermeticism, Spinoza, the Italian Renaissance, Hindu-Islamic mysticism, Buddhist cities.
Wow. Okay. So it's global.
It's a recurring global theme, this pursuit of something beyond the ordinary human condition. So for listeners, think about your own areas of interest, history, mythology, art. Where might these themes already be present, maybe just under the surface?
It sounds like he's saying these altered states weren't just side effects. They were maybe the source of major breakthroughs.
That's exactly his point. He argues these extraordinary moments, precognition, feeling doubled, mystical insights were often foundational for the big thinkers, the innovators.
And ignoring that means we misunderstand their work.
Fundamentally misunderstand it, he contends. We miss the wellspring of their ideas. He even has that chapter title, Legitimate Science Fiction.
Yeah, what's that about?
Suggesting we should look at how modern genres, like sci-fi, explore these very potentials. Maybe they function as modern myths, grappling with these same themes.
And then there's the flip. What's that concept?
The flip. That describes these really striking moments. Individuals, often with strong science backgrounds who have some kind of personal experience.
And it changes everything for them.
Completely shifts their worldview. They move from seeing matter as primary to seeing consciousness as primary. It's a powerful idea suggesting maybe an underlying continuity here that these potentials can break through even for committed materialists.
Now, Kripal isn't afraid to critique the humanities themselves, is he? This idea you mentioned, that the truth must be depressing.
No, he definitely diagnoses a tendency within the humanities to assume that, yeah, leading to this heavy emphasis on critique, deconstruction.
Which is important, obviously.
Absolutely crucial. But he feels it's become maybe too dominant, that the capacity for affirmation, for what some like Rita Felsky call a hermeneutics of trust, has diminished.
And that feeds back into the immunological response you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It connects. This intellectual immune system kicks in against ideas that might challenge that often somber materialist outlook.
How does that manifest? Just dismissal?
Dismissal, reductionism, trying to explain away the experiences, or even accusing people exploring these things of being irrational.
And the result?
The result, he argues, is that vital parts of human experience get ignored, and we don't seriously engage with fundamentally different ways of understanding reality, like those found in mystical or religious traditions.
He even made a table comparing the two approaches, right? Conventional versus superhumanities?
Yeah, the table really lays it out clearly.
What are some key differences?
Well, like we said, conventional humanities leaning towards truth is depressing, superhumanities embracing the fantastic, the hopeful, critique versus integrating critique and affirmation, materialism versus a more open, pluralistic ontology.
And how anomalous experiences are treated.
Big difference there. Dismissed or pathologized in one, taken seriously as potential data in the other. And the view of the human shifts, too, from mainly a social political being to potentially an evolved, even cosmic species.
Moving from malaise to new meanings.
That's the goal, moving from potential malaise to discovering new meanings, maybe even creating new worlds.
So how do we start making this shift? You talked about the human as two. That sounds key.
It really is. The human as two is his model for getting beyond the limitations we've discussed. It suggests we aren't just the everyday socially constructed self.
There's another dimension.
Yes, a deeper dimension, potentially transpersonal, maybe even superhuman. And this model lets you, the listener, hold both things at once, the critical analysis of our world and the fascinating data from these unusual experiences. You don't have to ditch one for the other.
And apophatic anthropology. That's about how we talk about this deeper dimension.
Exactly. It borrows from apophatic theology, defining something by what it's not. He suggests this deeper self might resist easy definition with our current language.
Acknowledging our limits.
Right. Acknowledging the limits of our concepts when we're dealing with the mystery of consciousness, which also makes him question purely brain-based models of awareness.
Suggesting consciousness isn't just locked inside the skull.
Potentially not confined to the brain-body system. Some might see connections there to ideas like dual aspect monism, mind and matter as two sides of one coin.
And things like OBEs, NDEs, mystical states. He sees those as evidence for this second aspect.
As potential empirical grounding, yes, not just noise or illusion, but valuable data hinting at these expanded capacities. His own experiences probably play a role here too. This second self is linked to those innate superhuman qualities he talks about.
And he takes this two idea and applies it to theory itself. Theory is two.
Yes, he extends the model. Theory is two calls for frameworks that can handle both the socio and political stuff that critical theory is good at, and these superhuman dimensions.
So not throwing out existing theories.
No, not at all. He wants to integrate them. Psychoanalysis, feminist theory, post-colonial thought, integrate them into a bigger picture.
No, what's the method? He mentions the imaginal.
Right, drawing on thinkers like Henry Corbin. The imaginal isn't just imaginary in our usual sense. It's a real realm, accessible through visionary states that can convey actual knowledge.
So combining empiricism with taking visionary experience seriously.
Precisely. Wedding empiricism with an epistemology, a way of knowing that centers the phenomena themselves. That takes these non-ordinary states seriously on their own terms without just reducing them.
And this is how we start to decolonize reality in academia.
It's a major part of it. It pushes academics towards what he calls intellectual bifocalism.
Yeah.
Being able to do rigorous critique and be genuinely open to alternative realities, other ways of knowing. And he stresses we need to bring in insights from contemporary science to quantum physics, consciousness studies, parapsychology.
Seeing those as potential bridges.
Potential bridges, yeah, between our standard view and these anomalous experiences.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what's the core message of Kripal's Superhumanities? What's he really trying to get us to see?
The bottom line is, He believes the humanities need to embrace this superhuman dimension to shake off any perceived stagnation and really fulfill their potential.
And those metaphors he uses. The solid rock was once flowing.
That captures the idea that reality and knowledge aren't fixed and rigid, but fluid, dynamic, contrasting with the limiting structures he's critiquing.
And the Phoenix Rising epilogue.
That's pure hope, isn't it? A symbol of rebirth for the humanities if they embrace this bigger vision of the human. It's about moving past constant critique to allow for affirmation, wonder.
Seeing ourselves as more than just biological machines or social constructs?
Yeah, seeing the human as potentially an evolved cosmic species, it's a much grander view.
It definitely sounds like a more expansive, maybe even more exciting way to think about being human.
It really is. He's pointing towards the possibility of entirely new cultural imaginaries, new meanings, new worlds. His book is fundamentally an invitation, really. An invitation to keep exploring the deep mystery of who we are.
So for everyone listening, the big takeaway from this deep dive into Kripal's work is maybe this. Exploring that superhuman dimension he talks about could genuinely enrich your understanding, not just of yourself, but of history, culture, maybe reality itself.
Which leaves us with a question for you to chew on. What suppressed dimensions, what fantastic undercurrents might be lurking in your own areas of interest, or even in your own life? What happens if you start taking those possibilities seriously?
If this conversation has sparked something for you, if you're curious about these ideas, definitely check out the book The Superhumanities by Jeffrey Kripal. It's quite a ride.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.